Friends, thank you for watching my channel. I just want to remind you, if you need wallpaper, go to www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Tell them Spencer sent you. In fact, if you use my hashtag, Spencer Colgan is wallpaper, they'll be sure to give you a 10% off at your checkout. No matter how much you order, they have a wide selection of wallpaper. Check it out. Folks, this is the wallpaper we will be hanging in this video. It's from Etten Wall Coverings BV. We're dealing with a product whose pattern is incredibly difficult to find. The repeat, that is. It is extremely subtle. And you might find yourself in a position where, number one, you're new at hanging paper, you're great at it, but you didn't realize that it was a matching pattern because you didn't read the label. You're a do-it-yourselfer, you're good at it, but you skipped a major point in the instructions, which is to find the repeat and find the match. Or, secondly, you assumed, you're a hanger, you assumed, hey, this is random. And you just failed to look at the label, which clearly states that it's a drop match. Let me show you. This is the product. Okay, now let's look at the label. You see that right in the middle of your screen? That's a drop match. You see the brush? Let's paste the wall. Okay? But I'm going to show you something that you may realize is the better way to go. First of all, number one, if you're on the West Coast or if you're in the Southeast, you have texture on walls. It's just the norm. It's where the Spanish came and settled when they came from Europe, and they brought texture, okay? So, number two, you have a dark pattern. Let me tell you something. This dark pattern doesn't play games. I'm going to show you what I mean. The more this gets wet, the more it gives up the color. If you're wiping down wall covering over texture, these highs, they create friction as you do this. And what happens is you wind up with a blue sponge. Number three, with number two in mind, when you try to meet up the seams, after you've spent a half an hour trying to match these things, you'll find that this paper, now this is expensive wallpaper, but guess what? It shrinks. Now, I'm going to show you something. When you can do this, do it. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? If I match up these seams, my customer's going to say, Spencer, you did a great job. It looks gorgeous. And then tomorrow morning, she's going to send me a picture of this. That's what she's going to send me. Look. Spencer, it looked great yesterday, but look. Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. Your paper shrunk. Well, you know what? That's not going to keep you getting a good name. I'm going to show you what to do. Here's what I'm going to give you a hint. Oh yeah, you're getting it. Get it? Who got it already? You get a paper like this and you can do it, double cut it. So we're hanging the next sheet. Of course, we got to make sure it's level here, because that's very, very important. Because that means This is plumb. And then I don't need a laser. I can go right against the edge as long as I keep an equidistant cut from X to this edge. Whatever X is, whether it's 3/16 or whatever. I just need to be consistent against that edge. Now I've got my wallpaper overlapped. Can't even find the seam. And I'm going to make myself a double cut because I've learned over the years, I'm telling you, I'm going to give this lady a better job than I would have given her had I not overlapped this and double cut it. You're a creator as a wallpaper hanger. You know better than the manufacturer. They don't know how to hang paper. You know what's best when you've suffered separated seams and mismatches and all the rest of it, especially over this. So if you're new at it and you didn't understand what I meant on cutting the edge, just keeping it parallel to the edge, well, you can always go to a laser level or a plumb bob. If you're from the UK, we know from the USA how you guys love those plumb bobs over across the lake. And you'll see that I'm just 3/4 of an inch from the edge there. Now holding my straight edge up against the laser, I can now cut with my stainless steel blade. Now let's not forget why I'm suggesting that you use this method if you're up to it. We are going over bumps, and bumps militate against a flat, nice, flush seam. And I'm sick and tired of having my seams take a half an hour to make them look acceptable. I'm sick and tired of it. And so I'm the hanger. I'm going to make a decision on how to make this look perfect. That's why I'm doing this. After cutting it, I can now take what I've created to be the bleed away. And now let me show you how perfectly the seam falls into place. Never want to go against pigmented wallpaper while it's super dry. I spritz it down with water. Oh, takes away the friction. And now, look at that. I'm embedding my seam. I'm making it invisible. Okay? Little word to the wise here. Watch this. I'm going to save you folks a lot of trouble. We're dealing with a non-woven paper product, okay? If you wipe this seam down, wonderful. Here's what you're going to do to the rest of it. Wipe it all down equally, with equal pressure, equal water, etc., etc., etc. Why is that? Because when the color comes off, you want it to come off all over, not just here. Understand me? And then your seam, right now identifiable by the laser, but now without the laser, becomes imperceptible. Doing my piece underneath the window. Now, guys like Ben Panada and other veterans who watch my channel, they already figured out what I'm doing, but I'm not going to reveal on this video what the obvious is. There's no need to, because if you're watching this and you're thinking this is a great idea, well, go ahead with it. Now, the veteran installers, the guys who hang paper, they know the obvious, but I'm not going to mention it, and I probably won't discuss it on the comment section of this video. But perhaps I will, I don't know. But this is an excellent way of making your seams imperceptible. And we're not talking about overlapping it a lot. This is 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Just pull that out. clean sponge. Clean sponge. Gentle pressure with the smoother. That's what we're talking about. Otherwise, hanging this color wallpaper over texture on paper, this is a paper wallpaper, you will have seam separations. It's very thin. It doesn't stretch. Vinyl stretches. This is paper. And they make it very hard for your reputation. You know, they make it what I consider an inferior product. I mean, let the manufacturers call in a couple of installers from around the area and let them hang it. And let them see the results. I can guarantee you the manufacturer would make this differently if they knew that 100% of the time the product shrinks. What do you think this product is going to do over texture? Look at this texture. I'm going to tell you. What does snow do when it's over rocks, bumps, ups and downs, nooks and crannies? It recedes, doesn't it? It recedes after the moisture evaporates from the product. It relaxes back toward the center, especially with texture underneath it. And what you get is a very unsightly result, which is called the visible seam. Now you can paint the wall blue underneath it, and I know many of you are thinking, oh, you had a video on this. Yeah, well, I'm tired of waiting for the paint to dry and then the paint coming off while I install it. I can do it, but I don't want to take 2 days to install the paper. I want to get it done today. Okay, and so the manufacturer needs to come up with a different process. It's great paper, it's beautiful, but I can tell you, it's not the best material to hang over texture. Some of you are saying, I don't get it. Isn't a double cut seam and a butt joint the same issue when it comes to shrinkage? It's a great question. Great question. So when I overlap it, I let it relax. And I let it shrink on the wall. Those few minutes of letting that relax and shrink eliminate the possibility that it's going to shrink later on. Okay? While it's overlapped, see, this has been up a few minutes. While it's overlapped, and then moves this way a little bit. I don't care because it's overlapped. Now do you see the difference? And the results are the same all the time. Perfection. Well, we're coming along here, and I think that you can see, even though the product is silhouetted by that enormous source of light from this window, you can see that, there you go. You can see that this is a decent approach, isn't it? And I can tell you, as the pro or the do-it-yourselfer, you are going to be very pleased with the results. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can do this on every product. Absolutely not. You have to figure it out, folks. If you have a matching pattern right up to the edge, obviously you can't do this, right? But if you have these random lines, take advantage of the opportunity to lay this wallpaper down properly against this texture. These seams were laid 2 hours ago. Okay? They're dry. For the most part, they're done. 2 hours. When you hang paper and you move, if you're lefty or righty, depending on which direction you're going in, you come back 2 hours later with thin wallpaper paper, your seam is set. If it's going to split, it's going to split right then and there. You'll see oftentimes when you get a call back and say the seam split, and you'll see it's at the end of the job. Why is that? Because you were paying attention to the beginning. You were on the job. But as you got to the end of the job, 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night, you left it. An hour and a half to 2 hours later, it started to dry, and guess what happened? It split. The material is wet over here, but this is the finished product. This is all dry over here where I began this morning. Nice and dry. Beautiful color, but that has nothing to do with the video, right? The whole reason for the video was to discuss an alternative method by which a paper hanger goes about joining seams on what is similar to a grass cloth pattern. That's the whole purpose of it. And I suggest in here, in this video, that double cut. Double cut because when you do, you can't see the seams. You can't see them. But if you don't double cut and you do a butt joint with paper, wallpaper, you're going to get a fracture, which we discussed earlier in the video. And why is that? Because you're bringing wallpaper up onto a hill and you're laying it down. The hill is necessarily, it slants the wallpaper. The wallpaper protrudes, and consequently the wallpaper recedes once it shrinks of its liquid. Once it shrinks, once it gives up the liquid that's in the paste that was saturated into the backing, well, like snow melting, it slides down the hill of the texture. Remember, we wallpapered over texture. And so when you put this wallpaper over those bumps, the wallpaper pulls back. It slides back, just like melting snow. And so I'm suggesting here that you simply counter such an inclination on the part of the wallpaper by expecting that to happen and then using a technique that will make the product, the final product, look more beautiful. Okay? This is a seam. But show me the seam. Now remember, this is the last part of the job, so the seams are wet. Okay? Seams are wet. Any questions, please leave them below.